G'day guys, it's Ross here, and today we're going to take a look at chicken tractors, which are mobile chicken coops. I've got friends who've got two small chickens and a small hutch, and it's a little bit too big for them now that they're about 2.5 months old. So I volunteered to make a new chicken tractor for them. And they've got a very small backyard, so I didn't want to make something too big, and these chickens do free range quite a lot. So it's really just to lock them in at night. So my constraints in this project were I didn't want to use anything new except for the fixings, things like the hinges and the nails and the screws. Everything else is secondhand. Everything's been off my property somewhere. Even the wire, which is the only thing I had to buy, is secondhand off Facebook for 15 bucks. Let's take a look at these happy chickens, and then afterwards we'll do a fast forward and show you how we built it and some of the lessons learned. Let's get started. So we'll launch in. There's one of the chickens, that's Artie. The other chicken's called Hey Hey, and they're in their pen there, and the hutch side is down on the right hand side. Now I started this with 2 pieces of red gum, some old fence posts that I'd got given a year ago. There's an ad on Marketplace, a woman just wanted to get rid of some wood. So I thought I'll pick it up and chuck it down the back and use it at some point. And I've used it for this project. So I'm just ripping that down, and the term ripping it down just means when you rip wood, you're just cutting it down to the size you want for your project. And I was using one of my old saws with an old blade, and I actually burnt through the wood. This was a really slow, cumbersome process because the blade was that blunt. Later on, I'll do some cutting with the battery circular saw, and it's got a much newer blade, and it just went straight through it. So there's the obligatory fast forward cleanup of the floor, and all of that red gum sawdust will go into the compost bin and live another useful life. So when you get wood, little scraps like this I've had in my shed, what tends to happen is the ends get a bit manky. These bits of wood have actually been used for multiple projects. I've had these from my last house. I've probably had them for 15 years and used them for multiple things, and taken things to bits and thought, well, I'll save the wood. You cut the ends because the ends are the bit that gets a bit yuck, and then you can see I'll measure them all up and make sure they're all the same length. I think I've got 5 bits there, but I only used 4. I'm going to use these for the bottom of the frames that I'm making. And all that paint and dirt, etc., that'll just sand right off, and it'll come back to actually brand new. And because they're old pieces of wood, they've completely dried out and they're not going to warp, which is the benefit of using this stuff. If you get a newer piece from the hardware store, good chance it's still drying, which means it can warp once you've used it. Now I'm cutting an angle on 4 short pieces and 4 long pieces of wood. You'll see those in a second. These are the bottom pieces again, and I'm just pre-drilling all of these. And in a second, I'll swap that drill out for a countersink, and we'll quickly countersink all of those so the screws go up and they sit flush with the bottom of that wood. Now I'll put the whole thing together. That's the bottom piece and that short and long piece with the angle, and that's going to make a long part of the chicken coop and the short part. And then I'll put a piece across, measure it up. There we go, like that, and we'll attach that in a second. I won't bother showing you how that's done. You get the idea. And then we'll put them together like this, just to get a rough idea what it's going to look like. Now in hindsight, what I could have done is the coop part, which is a bit I'm measuring now, I could have raised it up by about 1.5 feet, and that would mean the chickens could actually walk underneath it and have a bit more space. However, that would make it a little bit top heavy, and it's not a particularly big coop, and really the chickens that are going to be in this already free range quite a bit, so I didn't worry about it terribly much. Now none of the pine is going to be on the ground, it's only the hardwood going to be in the ground, and I've waxed that. So that will not rot. It's hardwood, takes a long time to rot. It's pretty much got to sit in water for years. So this is not going to sit on water, it's going to sit on a lawn. And all of that pine will get painted up. Now I'm just using that bucket to create a template for the door. I've cut that out with a jigsaw, and I'm going to save the door because I want to use that as well as the piece of wood I'm cutting it out of, and we'll see that in a second. Bit of a clean up, very quick sand, and there we go, we'll start the building. Now I've already put a bottom piece in, you can see there with the tape measure on. Now I've put that door on, and then another piece finishes that job, and on the other side I've just got a piece of wood where those 2 join, and I'll put the roost on that. Now on this side I've used 4 bits of wood. One of them I've cut 5 holes in from a door lock kit that I've got for installing new doors. And this is Shosugi burn, and this is a Japanese wood burning technique. Now I do have that burner too close to the wood. I experimented and later on and found out it was actually more efficient to come back about 6 or 8 inches. But you get the idea. And the Japanese do this a lot on their softwoods, especially cedar. You can also use pine, and I'm doing this on plywood. Now, what they do is they burn it quite a lot more than I'm doing. They actually set fire to the wood and leave it for a couple of minutes and then put it out. And then clean it back with wire brush and then oil it or wax it. And it makes it fire resistant, insect resistant and rot resistant. And I think it looks really, really good. You'll see it with wax on it later. It looks quite smart. And as I said, there's 4 bits of wood there. Everyone's just screwed on, not screwed and glued. So if any of it gets damaged, it's very, very easy just to take out a half a dozen screws and replace any of that wood. It would have been good to do it with one piece, but as I said at the start, one of my constraints was to use just secondhand stuff. And this is what I had, so this is what I used. And there you go, I'm setting fire to it. That was not deliberate, but that's all right. It's all good. So you see the idea there. Now I'm about to put a roof on, and this roof I got for free. I picked up some 4.5 metre long stainless steel hand rails, and it was part of a ramp kit from a guy that was redoing some stuff at a retirement village about early in 2024. And that's part of the ramp, which I've got no other use for. It's quite heavy and strong, and that's what it's going to look like. But of course I've got to take it off to put the wire on. Now this is a piece I should have left longer. This is the other post, and I ripped that down, so I've cut it in half, and this time with the electric battery, and it just went straight through the battery operated saw there. It went straight through it. And I'm using the wheelbarrow that I've got, which has got a really comfortable handle as a template to make the handle for this this chicken tractor. And then just doing all the cuts with the battery operated, which means I don't have to worry about the lead out the back. This is a good way to use those, and that's what they're really good for doing little jobs like this. Right, there you go. My old woodworking teacher would turn in his grave. It's a bit of a rough job, but it doesn't matter too much. Now, what I'm going to do now is sand it back. What I'm not going to show you in this video, and you will see that I'm not using gloves. Dumb me, because what you won't see in this is a few seconds after this video finishes, I slipped and my little fingernail on my right-hand side, it disappeared off into the distance. And it's now healing up. I've been told 6 months for a new fingernail. Respect your equipment. That was a bit gross, but it's all good. I should have left these longer, and you see I've bolted them into those 2 frames, but if I left them longer, they would have gone all the way across to the coop, and the frames wouldn't have bent when I tensioned the wire. So what I had to do was add 2 more bits of pine on a bit later. So that's making a door, which I had to make at a slight angle, and that's putting the wire on the door, obviously, tensioning all the way around. This is the wire that I brought for $25 off Marketplace, sorry, $15, and there's enough there to do the whole lot. I think there's four lots as I go from where I am now over the top down to the other side and across the end, and also plenty left over for another little project. Now this stuff is the 13mm hole. Mice will go straight through 13mm holes. I've seen it happen. So if you're trying to make it mouse proof, you actually need Avery mesh, not 13mm chicken wire. Now I'm using lots of little brads, lots of them, because this is such thin wire, it pulls through. So you've got to have lots of brads. Now look what I'm doing there. I've just slowed this bit down. I've got a little a garden fork, and I've put it through the wire, and then I'm pulling it down, and that spreads the load and helps you tension that wire really nicely. It's a great little tool for tensioning when you're putting it on the wood. And in a second, you'll see me tensioning the wire against the wire. So this is where I've got the separate runs coming down, and you can see that I'm joining them. And just on the other side, you can see lots of little aluminium clips. And in my right hand up there, I've got what's called a hog nose or hog clip pliers. And all those little clips are called hog clips. You get packets of 600 of them for about $6. And I'm just tensioning all that up with the screwdriver there and the pliers. And you can see here, there we go. This is just a nice tension without being too silly. It means it's not going to flap around in the wind, and it looks quite good. That's just a shot that's probably in the wrong place. That's okay. When I put this bracket on, I realised immediately that the caster was going to go sideways and jam if I tried to push this thing like a wheelbarrow, that I could only pull it. So what I did is I took it off, and then I just got some light metal, which I had sitting in the corner, cut it down and welded that on. I'm a bit of a hack, but you know, I can tidy it up pretty well. Painted it up with some satin black paint and installed it. And I think it looks pretty good. And those casters can now do a 360. And you see that wood now has all been waxed, and that looks really good. That Shosugi bun looks really good. And the hinges on this hutch door are actually at the bottom, so that you can open the hutch door just a crack, look in, and if there's no chickens in there, you can open it, replace their food, their water, collect the eggs, you know, give them new bedding straw, whatever. Now that little chamfer there is just to make sure that any water that comes down actually goes out and not in. And I'm installing just a simple latch there. I installed it in the wrong place. It needs to go up about 1 centimetre, which I'll fix in a second. You'll see that. Just below that, there's that big sort of window, which I've actually got a metal rod across, so the chickens can't try and escape. And that's actually because that was for another project. Already had that hole in it. Now, on the back of the where I'm working now, there we go, I've got laser light. Now, this is because chickens have really bad night vision. So I've got that at the bottom to give them more light in their coop. And above that, I'm using some 6mm brace board left over from when I lined my workshop. And it's got a bit of a gap along the top, which will again help with aeration along with those 6 portholes. And that's what it looks like. It's a 6mm. You can use it inside or outside. I've used a bit more to make up a little nesting box. There's an artistic shot coming up. There you go, through one of those portholes. Now I've used this little clip to actually get a shape for the roost, and then I've screwed the roost on, and then I've also put a clip on. So there's actually 2 screws on either side, and then I've put the door on, and there's a latch to keep it open and also a latch to keep it closed. So what I'm doing here is putting some wooden strips on with some black screws, and that's just sitting about where all that wire is, and that wire's been cut, so there's lots of little bit sharp bits of wire there, so this just makes it a little bit nicer. And to get those screws, I just put a whole lot of them into a piece of scrap wood and hit it with the spray can, and they look a lot nicer than just the silver stuff. So there you go, that's a finished job, and also some on the door. Then a door latch, and we're pretty much finished. So this is it in situ. That's with the door open, looking inside. And I'll come up to a video now. I'm just putting some straw in their nesting box. A bit more straw under where they're roosting because they defecate mostly when they're roosting at night. So you can just take the straw out with all of the manure in it and then replace it. And that's an easy access into the side. And there you go, that's a finished job. I think a couple of happy chickens clucking around in there. If I'd started with a plan, this would have been quicker, but then I would have had to buy all the wood that I wanted. So this was a fairly cheap exercise. It probably cost me about $60 all up with all the fittings. And I think we've got a fairly good result for those chickens. There you go, they're quite happy. Now guys, as always, I thank you for your time. Hopefully that was at least entertaining. Thanks for staying this long into the video. And until next time, happy clucking. See ya.